Welcome to Mock Draft Monday, everybody. We've got Mock Draft 3.0 here today, and per usual, this is going to be a what I would do mock draft, placing myself in the GM chair of all 32 teams in the NFL, drafting and making decisions based on my own draft board, my own player evaluations. And with that said, if you want to check out that draft board along with exclusive film breakdowns on these collegiate prospects, check out my Patreon. It's patreon.com/ThatFranchiseGuy. If you enjoy this video, you enjoy my draft content, you're going to love my Patreon. You can check out the full TFG Draft Insider package there and support the channel in the process. So thank you in advance for going to check that out. One more quick plug. I will be streaming tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern on my Twitch. That link is in the description below. I'll be picking up where we left off with our new Texans realistic rebuild after trading Deshaun Watson. So I'll be there tonight. I'll see you guys there. And then let's get into the mock draft, what you guys have all been waiting for. I do have one note. As this is a what I would do mock draft, I've been very clear that with that Jets pick, I would be drafting Zach Wilson. But there's a lot of hot button quarterback conversations. Deshaun Watson, Carson Wentz on the market. Do the Jets stick with Sam Darnold? That's going to be very critical and pivotal for the draft with Zach Wilson, or maybe someone likes Fields, who knows? But in this world, just to mix things up and see how a different realistic outcome, which would be the Jets standing by Sam Darnold, would impact the rest of the draft, I am going to play out that scenario here, even if that is not quote-unquote what I would do. So we'll get into that here basically now, because we're going to start the mock draft. The first pick here is chalk, Trevor Lawrence to the Jaguars. So we're going to basically skip over this. It's chalk, but I did just release my top 10 quarterbacks video last Friday. So if you have not seen that yet, you want to see what I think about Trevor Lawrence in a little more depth, go check that out. And then with that number 2 pick, the New York Jets sitting there not drafting Zach Wilson in this world. Again, I would take Zach Wilson and trade Darnold. But sitting there at the number 2 pick, if you're going to stand by Sam Darnold, you want to trade out of that spot because Joe Douglas is a smart GM. There is too much value in that pick with the quarterbacks available. Someone's either going to love Wilson or Fields, right? I think it's going to be Wilson in most teams' cases. But you don't take Penei Sewell as great as he is there. You don't take Jamar Chase as good as he is there because you can load up on picks. And basically from the Jets' perspective, even if this isn't quote-unquote what I would do, I do still think it makes a ton of sense because you're loading up on picks, and I'll show you the trade here in just a second, but you're loading up on picks to build around Sam Darnold, and you're going to get a future first-round pick. So even if Sam Darnold doesn't work out here, you're putting a good core in place for a different quarterback in the future. You're probably not going to win a lot of games if Sam Darnold doesn't work out. You're already going to have a good pick next year, and you've got 3 first-round picks to navigate the draft next year. It's shown every year that a critical quarterback is going to emerge. Guys like Zach Wilson, Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, all top picks. No one expected them to go nearly close to what they did. So you're going to be putting yourself in a position to get a quarterback next year and getting more capital to build around Sam Darnold. So it does make sense for the Jets if they did want to see this thing play out with Sam Darnold with a new coordinator and putting more picks around him. So the team that's going to be making this move is going to be the Carolina Panthers. And again, I'm making this trade from all 32 teams. And the trade that just made the most sense here is the Panthers giving up the 8th pick, the second round pick, which is pick 38, 2022 first round pick, and a 2022 fourth round pick. And they're going to move up and take Zach Wilson. That's a no-brainer. Again, my quarterback breakdown is there from last Friday. If you want to see why Zach Wilson is so good to me and why this is such a no-brainer move for the Panthers that kind of have everything in place right now, but they need that upside and long-term projection for a franchise quarterback. And I think David Tepper, the owner, is thinking big picture, and his priority this offseason is to make a big move for a quarterback. This is pretty win-win if the Jets are going to recommit to Sam Darnold. So I do find that fascinating. It's a scenario that I think could definitely play out and actually could work out for both parties involved. Then we're not as creative with the number 3 pick here, the Miami Dolphins. I don't even think Dolphins fans are really getting tired of this pick. They're just probably tuning out mock drafts a little bit because this one just makes so much sense. You grab Penei Sewell, you slide Austin Jackson to right tackle, Robert Hunt upgrades at right guard. You upgrade the entire offensive line with one pick. So it just makes too much sense. He's the best player in this class, in my opinion. So nailing it for Miami. Just stay there, grab the tackle. It's a deep receiver class. You can get more weapons for Tua later. And then same thing here for Atlanta. Justin Fields. This is just a harmonious selection. I get it, Falcons fans. It'd be exciting to grab Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts and try to run this thing back with Matt Ryan, and it just might work out. Look, with the defense in the situation it's in, there's no player in this class that's going to save your defense. You're not going to win a Super Bowl next year with Matt Ryan in almost all likely outcomes. So grab Justin Fields. You don't know when you're going to be picking this high. You don't know if you're picking this high again, if there's going to be a quarterback like Justin Fields. My comparison for him, Ryan Tannehill. Well, Ryan Tannehill literally just crushed it 2 years in a row for your new head coach running that Shanahan offense. Justin Fields gets to sit and learn behind Matt Ryan. It is a dream landing spot. He's coming home to Georgia, where he was basically kicked out of town by Jake Fromm, a redemption arc for Fields. I love this pick. I love the Sewell pick at 3, and I love Jamar Chase here to the Cincinnati Bengals at 5. This is the one where, yeah, you might trade down, maybe grab an offensive lineman later. Sure, absolutely, but it does take 2 to tango, and I didn't see it making sense for any of these other teams to move up to that 5th pick with those top 3 quarterbacks off the board. So let's just stay put. Let's grab the best player available, who to me is Jamar Chase, who worked with Joe Burrow. You just reignite that flame. You get that timing. You keep Joe Burrow healthy. You can address offensive line in free agency or maybe even move up to the back end of the first round. There's other ways to address the offensive line in this incredibly deep class. So I love this fit. Those 3 picks right there, and even this next pick, all just make a ton of sense. Now, this next pick, and again, these have been the same. 3 through 6 have been the same since I've been mock drafting, but it's because they really are, I'm going to stick with that word, harmonious, that makes sense. But this one, the Philadelphia Eagles going Devontae Smith, is a little bit more, I guess, up in the air because Carson Wentz is on the trade block. And if you trade Carson Wentz, I think the Eagles are probably the team that makes the most appealing case to the Jets because they're probably getting... I think the Eagles are only trading Wentz if they can get at least a first-round pick. So the Eagles would probably be offering 6 and, I don't know, let's just say the 20th pick or the 21st pick from either Indianapolis or Chicago. So that could very well be the trade for the Jets. And then the Eagles are sitting there with Zach Wilson. But if you're going to stick with Carson Wentz, which I think is decently likely, we'll see how this all plays out. Let's grab Devontae Smith, who's going to make the Carson Wentz reclamation project much easier. You get a true number 1 receiver that's going to separate and basically make Carson Wentz's job easier. So that's still going to be the pick, but obviously that's very up in the air with the whole Carson Wentz situation. And then the 7th pick here, this might be the hardest spot to mock draft every year. I think people that, or this year at least, people that are doing the mock drafts out there would probably agree. Like, where do you go here? And I really sat here and I thought long and hard about this pick more than anyone out there. Not out there, teams in this class. I'm not taking a shot at other people for thinking. Anyway, I thought about Micah Parsons. I thought about Patrick Surtain. I thought about Trey Lance, but I don't think this staff wants to draft a quarterback right now, especially one as raw as Trey Lance. I don't think they want that pressure of when do you play him and all that. They want to establish a core. They want to get hard-nosed and blue-collar here. And I tried to trade down, and nothing really made sense here for the other teams. And I just sat there. I was like, all right, clock is running out, hypothetically. I'm going to grab Rashawn Slater. And it's a little high for Rashawn Slater. I have him as kind of that 10 to 16 range, but he played right tackle his sophomore year. And Detroit wants to get back to this old school football. They want to establish a core and a culture and a foundation. And I know they want to run the ball with the hires they've made with Campbell and Anthony Lynn. And Slater's a phenomenal run blocker. You plug him in at right tackle. You have that tackle, center, really core unit to build that offensive line around, which is exactly what they had in New Orleans with the tackle duo and Eric McCoy. And it does make a ton of sense here for Detroit to really get back to playing really good line play here. So Detroit, we're going to go Rashawn Slater at 7. It's a little bit early, but I think it actually makes a ton of sense when you sit there and think about what this team wants to do as far as the direction they want to go. Then we have the 8th pick where the Jets traded down, and this is why this actually does not sound so bad. So the Jets are going to grab Kyle Pitts with the 8th pick here. And their new offensive coordinator, Mike LaFleur, coming from San Francisco, he worked with a player, you may have heard of him, he's kind of good, George Kittle. Well, Kyle Pitts is similar in the ability to be that mismatched tight end. He's not quite the blocker that Kittle is, but same idea. The ability to scheme him open on play action and the creative really potential for Kyle Pitts in this offense is through the roof. And that's just the beginning of things that you're going to be able to do to help Sam Darnold here. But Kyle Pitts is going to be a quarterback's best friend, and Sam Darnold needs some players like this that can be go-to weapons that you can manufacture easy stuff for. And that is a dream fit for everyone involved here for the Jets, assuming you're not getting Deshaun Watson or drafting Zach Wilson. So love that for the Jets. If they ended up with the 6th pick, I'd probably do the same thing. I just love the idea of Kyle Pitts here to the Jets based on the offense they're going to run and the needs that they have. You got Mims on the outside. You got Crowder in the slot. Now Kyle Pitts is that do-it-all mismatch problem. Love it. All right, Denver, we're sticking with Patrick Surtain here. Similar, we've done this all 3 mocks at this point, but it really does make sense. I do understand the appeal of Caleb Farley as far as the athletic upside. Farley is a faster corner, but Surtain, think about like Richard Sherman and Xavier Howard in Miami. Those guys aren't burners, but they're so physical and long, they're able to neutralize speed and take out guys like Tyreek Hill and some of the fastest receivers in the game because they don't let them get to top speed. And I do think Patrick Surtain for Denver, who needs a plug-and-play day one starter in their defense, is a much better pick than a Caleb Farley, considering they have expectations to turn this thing around and win next year. So love the pick for Patrick Surtain. Then we got the Dallas Cowboys sitting here at number 10, and that's going to bring back up the Caleb Farley conversation. That's about the player that you're looking for here. That's the biggest need here for the Cowboys is that corner position. But I also like J.C. Horn in this Seattle 3 defense that Dan Quinn is going to implement. So if that's a reach and you have 2 guys on your board that if you can trade down and collect some more picks to beef up that secondary and some of these other positions of need, I'm going to do that. And there's a little cherry on top in this because there's a player with immense value here in Jalen Waddle that you can make that move down. Jalen Waddle isn't going to see the field here in Dallas with the receivers that they have, but you can, pardon my French, cock block the New York Giants from taking Jalen Waddle and giving you that headache by trading down with the Arizona Cardinals, which would be an amazing move. If Kyler Murray is struggling over the middle of the field because of his height, which I think is a legitimate concern, well, let's give him a real deep threat. Let's give him real 4.3 speed, not Andy Isabella 4.3 speed. I'm sorry, Andy Isabella, but it's just not working there. And you have a true deep threat where Kyler Murray, there's the height comparison, obviously, but as far as like their downfield accuracy, Kyler and Russell Wilson, they have those abilities to drop those moon balls to these speedy deep threats, and Jalen Waddle would be perfect there. Also, his run after the catch ability would be elite in this offense that's constantly whipping out bubble screens in this West Coast style air raid offense. So Jalen Waddle, a dream fit for the Cardinals. You move up, you give a pair of 3rd-round picks to make this move for this year and next year, and for the Cowboys, you probably get who you want, and you cock block the Giants from taking the guy. So great trade there. I love that. I love when I find a trade in these mock drafts that just makes a ton of sense, and I think this one does. Then the New York Giants sitting there, maybe wishing they would have traded up, but we're going to grab Micah Parsons. His game is a perfect fit for the defense that the Giants run. They love 3 safety sets, and they're going to be even running even more of those next year with Xavier McKinney back healthy. And the reason they like that is it allows these linebackers to play closer to the line of scrimmage and basically just utilize their playmaking instincts. And Micah Parsons is the ideal fit there. He might not get ideal depth in his drops. He might not have ideal quickness. He's not, Deion Jones or even, Jeremiah Owusu Karamoa in this class as far as ability to man up tight ends and all that stuff. But his ability in run defense, you know that Dave Gettleman's going to love him. You know that the head coach is going to love him. That's their mantra is physicality, speed, toughness. And Micah Parsons fits the bill there. He's a phenomenal blitzer. He's awesome in QB spy. This is the exact type of linebacker that they want schematically. So it does make a ton of sense. It's not a bad consolation prize if you're not getting Jalen Waddle. And then San Francisco at number 12. This one's pretty easy. Just going to grab Christian Darasaw. Trent Williams up there in age and getting expensive. I think the Niners feel pretty good about their ability to grab that franchise left tackle here. Whether it's Slater or Darasaw, I think they feel pretty good about getting one of those guys here at 12. And that's the pick. I mean, plug in at left tackle, him and McGlinchey running that Shanahan offense for the next decade. Easy pickings for the Niners there from a draft perspective. Then I'm going to kind of shock the world here. The world's not watching this video, but I'm going to shock the people watching this video. That's for damn sure. With the 13th pick here, and last mock, we couldn't find a trade down partner for the Chargers, who they need to go offensive tackle. They know it. The whole league knows it. Like, it's a good tackle class. There's depth. They need to go tackle here, but 3 guys are gone, and it's a bit of a reach at this point. If you can trade down, I'm going to do it. And the team I'm going to move up here is going to surprise some people, and it's going to be the New England Patriots jumping up 2 spots to secure Mac Jones. And someone made a suggestion to do like my top 10 most ideal landing spots from a scheme fit, need, like culture, like just everything making sense. And Mac Jones to the New England Patriots, it is my favorite fit out of anyone in this class. You obviously have the Saban-Belichick connection. He is going to know everything about Mac Jones because his connection with Nick Saban. Those guys are best friends. But not just that. Mac Jones, overreact to this as much as you want. He plays like Tom Brady as a pocket passer that actually moves in the pocket and senses pressure and extends plays. He has the best processor in this class. My comp for him is Jimmy Garoppolo. Not only do you have the Alabama connection, not only are they desperate for a quarterback, not only do they have a great offensive line that is what Mac Jones is going to need as a pocket player at the next level, but he is the kind of quarterback that they want. A sharp quarterback that can be really effective, taking care of the football, efficient, run the offense, and is going to be able to move in the pocket, even if he's not an uber athletic guy. I mean, Mac Jones is just calling for the New England Patriots to draft him, but I think teams like Washington and Chicago, who are screwed at quarterback, know that, and they might be trying to move up. So New England is going to jump ahead and take actually the 5th best quarterback in this class. Trey Lance is my QB4, but he's more of that long-term project upside guy, whereas New England, they don't really want that. They want a guy that's going to start next year, and Mac Jones, he's got to be their guy. I mean, it just makes too much sense here. We're going to move up and secure it. You give up a 3rd-round pick to move up those 2 spots, and it just makes too much sense for New England. I love that pick right there. Then Minnesota, we're going to grab Trey Lance. This is a dream spot for Minnesota. They've never done this sort of sit and develop high upside quarterback thing. At some point, they need to be real with themselves here and say maybe a 1 step backwards, 2 steps forward approach here is the way to go. I do think Trey Lance needs to sit where he's going to be able to do that for 2-3 years behind Kirk Cousins, which is great for Trey Lance. But also, I think he needs to go to one of these offenses that runs the Kubiak-Shanahan scheme where they can utilize his mobility, utilize that vertical arm talent and accuracy, and simplify things for him. It's also a very similar offense to what he ran at North Dakota State. So schematically, it makes a ton of sense. The Vikings, it makes sense for the long-term upside. And hell, Trey Lance is from Minnesota. I can only assume he is a Vikings fan, but for him to come in and sit and develop to be the long-term, like, basically Aaron Rodgers for this organization, I mean, this would just be a dream for the Vikings. It's 1 pick against 20 potential years of actually having a franchise quarterback here. It is worth the risk, which Trey Lance is a risk, but if he's going to work out, it's going to be somewhere here like Minnesota. I think Atlanta he could work out. Tennessee, they all run this offense. San Francisco, obviously. Look for those teams to be in the Trey Lance market in the 8 to 15 range. Okay, so the Chargers, where we traded down, that's where we're going to grab Samuel Cosmi. The roster's loaded, other than the offensive line. Left tackle is the need. Samuel Cosmi is a fantastic pass protector. His run blocking is so-so. But he's not unlike Brian Bulaga, who's hopefully can stay healthy at right tackle there. He's under contract. So hopefully you have a tackle duo there to help secure that offensive line and let Herbert get some more time to throw deep. And then Dallas, where we traded down, Caleb Farley is the pick here. I do think you can move down. If someone else grabs Farley, maybe Minnesota or the Chargers could think about it, you can still probably get J.C. Horn, who's going to be a great scheme fit here as well in this cover 3 press man outside corner position. So I love the moves there from the Chargers and Dallas, who can basically get who they were going to draft anyway and collect some mid-round draft capital. Then the Las Vegas Raiders at 17. I am sticking with Gregory Rousseau here. He is a polarizing draft prospect. A lot of people do not like him. The number one thing I try to remind people about Gregory Rousseau, who do not like him, is his tape was freshman tape. If you dial up freshman pass rush tape, they're going to look for anyone. All the best pass rushers in the class, you name it. Most of them, other than probably like the Bosas, who were somehow extremely polished as freshmen, are going to look a lot like Gregory Rousseau, where they don't really know what they're doing. They don't have a ton of pass rush moves, but his strength in his arms is just impressive. He has spent a lot of time getting his body into the best shape of his life. Check out his interview with Austin Gale on the First Draft PFF podcast. This dude is stoked to get into the NFL. He is really well prepared. He is well aware that he was raw at Miami, and you could tell that it hurt him that he wasn't able to be out there and prove people why he probably should be a top 10 pick in this class. But there's that hesitation with how raw he was that, it's just not that excitement. So I really like Gregory Rousseau. I do think he needs to go to a 4-3 team. He can be Michael Bennett in this defense. The Raiders are going in that cover 3 Seattle defense with Gus Bradley. It's a perfect scheme fit. They need upside at pass rusher. Yeah, they got starters, Crosby and Nassib and obviously Clelin Ferrell, but they need a number 1 pass rusher. And if anyone in this class is going to become a number 1, like true high-end, like top 10, top 15 pass rusher that can get you 60, 70 pressures each game, each season, and 5-6 pressures a game, that can be Gregory Rousseau. So, and you can kick him inside and increase your interior rush early on while you still have Ferrell and Crosby. So, great fit here. I love this pick. People aren't high on Gregory Rousseau, but this is the kind of thing the Raiders need to do after going way too conservative with high floor, low upside picks in the first round the last couple of years. So, Gregory Rousseau is the pick there. And then the Miami Dolphins, sticking with what we've been doing. Rashad Bateman here. This draft it really is set up well for Miami to get Sewell at 3 and to get Rashad Bateman at 18. I think Bateman is another missing piece for this offense. That number 2 kind of possession, do-it-all receiver is going to get open early. He's a quarterback's best friend type of guy. He can play in the slot. If you try to press this guy, he's not going to have it. Like, he is the best receiver in this class against press by far. And he's a good run after the catch threat. Like, think Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams, Michael Thomas, kind of in that mold of crafty, tough, really polished route runners and release guys. So I love this fit for Miami. They can just kind of stay put in this draft, and I think really put a good surrounding core in front of Tua for next year. And then for the Washington football team, not sure what the quarterback room is going to look like. Maybe you send a second-round pick for Mariota. Maybe you do go with Heineke and Kyle Allen. But their problem is playmakers. They got a decent offensive line. You could go tackle, but I'm not in a huge rush to shake up that group that was actually pretty good last year. We just talked about that tackle duo being an underrated kind of veteran combo with Moses and what's his name, who they brought in from Chicago. So I'm going to go with Kadarius Toney out of Florida. This is about as early as I'm starting to think about Toney, but he is the missing piece for this unit. They could still use another perimeter player, but you got your slot guy who's going to get that quick separation, be a run after the catch threat, be a, like we keep saying, a quarterback's best friend. You got Terry McLaurin. So I love that fit there, Kadarius Toney for Washington. And then for Chicago, very similar to their NFC counterpart, Detroit. Tough spot here for Chicago as far as what do you do? I personally tried to trade down. In this situation, you're getting pressured from ownership. The Bears are, they keep shooting themselves in the foot that they refuse to rebuild here. They want to go all in every year and try to be the best version of themselves the next year. And I do think that we got to keep that into account while we're doing this. I would even think about just seeing if anyone wants to give me their first round pick next year for this pick and just being like, let's start over. That's probably what I would do, honestly, but that's just not very realistic. So I looked to trade down, but there wasn't a dance partner here. And I'm just sitting there like, what do we do? Like, we don't have a quarterback. We're starting to have some holes. Our offensive line is definitely our biggest need. And I just looked at the offensive line, and the pick I decided to make here was Creed Humphrey. Really, just clock's expiring. I got nothing else to do. We're going to take Creed Humphrey, who's probably the most safe plug-in starter for you. I don't think either of your interior offensive linemen are centers. Both Whitehair and Daniels have struggled at center when they've been there. They're better at guard. So you got that. You got your two veteran tackles, and that can be your offensive line for next year and moving forward. So you have a really good interior group. And he's going to help pave the way for David Montgomery, and maybe you can get a much better run game going to help out your defense. I don't know. Chicago's in a really tough spot. I would love to trade down. I'd love to find a way to get future assets because I realize that this probably isn't the year, but you also are talking about Ryan Pace on the hot seat here. So tough spot for Chicago, but we're going with Creed Humphrey there at center. And then the Indianapolis Colts, another team that is in a tough spot as far as their quarterback situation here. Maybe you do move a second-round pick to get a Mariota. Maybe you sign a veteran. Maybe you bring Brissett back, Andy Dalton. I don't know exactly what their quarterback situation is here, but they're kind of missing out in this world. And that's why the idea of them trading that first-round pick for Carson Wentz, when you look at how this thing's playing out right here, it starts to make a little more sense, doesn't it? Like, what are the alternatives? And they want to win next year, but it's just not going to happen where we're at right now with the quarterbacks. We're not taking Kyle Trask at 21. So we're going to grab J.C. Horn, excellent scheme fit, zone corner. You could go with a left tackle. I think that you can probably get a better option. I think you could attract a Trent Williams here. Maybe you trade down and draft someone later. It's a really tough spot for Chicago, Indianapolis, Washington. Like, these three teams, this is a hot spot of really just quarterback purgatory, to be completely honest. So it's not a perfect fit, but it's the best player available. He's a great scheme fit. He is a need. So we're just going to stick with that strategy right there and go best player available. And then Tennessee, I love this pick. I keep making it. It just makes too much sense as far as where Joseph Asai is going to come in and the scheme fit, that 3-4 defense. My comp for him, is Brian Arakpo. But he, to me, is what they thought they were getting in Jadeveon Clowney, in my opinion. More of a relentless, explosive rusher that's just going to keep coming. You have your sack artist in Harold Landry here, but to have a guy that can play that 3-4 outside linebacker day one, will play the run, can drop into coverage, and is going to push the pocket, keep coming, wear down offensive lines, be exactly what you know Mike Vrabel wants for this defense. Joseph Asai is the guy for Tennessee in the first round of this draft class. Then we've got the New York Jets. We're going to grab a player that has snuck into the first round conversation over the last 2-3 weeks as I've been continuing to go deeper into this class, and that is right tackle out of Oklahoma State, Tevin Jenkins. So for the Jets, I am looking for a guy that is comfortable as a right tackle. I think it's something you can do, moving guys to the other side, but I'd much rather do it with a guy that's proven to be comfortable with his technique on that side. It's a thing. It's not Madden where you can just flip the button and, okay, he's going to be the same guy at right tackle as he was at left tackle. It is something to consider here, but Tevin Jenkins gave me flashes of Mike McGlinchey, so you're, in a way, giving Mike LaFleur his George Kittle minus the blocking and his Mike McGlinchey at right tackle minus some of the athleticism. But Tevin Jenkins is probably, well, there's some really good run blocking right tackles or just tackles in this class. But after Slater and Sewell are different types of animals, Tevin Jenkins is the best run blocker in this class at tackle. So I love him as a plug-in play right tackle for the Jets. So you've got big upgrade of weapons there for the Jets, which is the plan here. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, Pouncey did retire at center, but Creed Humphrey's gone. The Bears took him. And I do think you can probably get, there's 3 more centers in this class that are really nice, and I think they're all going to be second-round players. And maybe you look to trade down to target them later, but that's not the most pressing need for the Steelers, although it is a need. But they are really good at developing those interior offensive linemen. But anyway, maybe you could kick DeCastro into center and figure out the other guard spot. There's options there for Pittsburgh. I'm going to stick with Najee Harris here. And there's certain teams where getting a high-end running back makes sense. And Najee Harris is my second highest rated player in this class. It's just that positional value. Well, their running back room really kind of stinks. It lacks explosiveness. They don't have a go-to receiving threat. Najee Harris is all of those things. Harris even shows some flashes of Le'Veon Bell with the patience and the receiving ability, but he also has some Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb in there as far as the explosive ability as a runner. So he is going to just dramatically increase the floor of your offense because you can actually have a great running game with Najee Harris. Yes, blocking matters for having a great run game, but at some point the running back does matter as well. The idea that running backs don't matter is certainly a thing, but in certain situations where you have a great defense and your quarterback really struggles to create an explosive passing game because of some of his physical limitations, having an elite running game makes sense for the Steelers. And I think Najee Harris can be the guy that helps get them there. So I don't always love going running back in the first round, but sometimes it just makes a lot of sense. And with the Pittsburgh Steelers, if you're trying to maximize this window, that might be it right there. Then we got the Jacksonville Jaguars. I fell in love with this pick in our last mock draft, and I'm going to do it again. Pat Freiermuth, this is like exactly the spot for him. He is an athletic freak. He hasn't played a ton, but he's got that it factor as a tight end. He's a really good run blocker. Jacksonville has some receivers. I don't know if you're necessarily upgrading your offensive line with this pick right here. You do have another pick coming right up where you can go offensive line. But I want to secure Pat Freiermuth while I can because I think him with Trevor Lawrence and some of these other playmakers really can help this offense quite a bit. And I do think Urban Meyer's also going to have a Big Ten bias, and that could help right here with the Penn State pick. And then the Cleveland Browns, I'm sticking with Zaven Collins. Excellent cover linebacker. This team doesn't have a ton of needs. You could go with a receiver, but I think they get Odell back, and they're pretty comfortable with how that's going to play out. So when I look at this defense, coverage over the middle of the field is definitely an issue for them. And I look at Zaven Collins, who can pair now with the Bama safety that is Harrison. Harrison, whatever. But yeah, you pair those guys, your middle of the field cover guys. I love this pick, Zaven Collins. Then we got the 27th pick, the Baltimore Ravens, and Ravens fans are clamoring for a receiver, but my thing is when I look at this, like what receiver here is the value pick that's going to change the offense next year? I don't know if there's anyone here that's a guaranteed upgrade to Miles Boykin. So there's that. There's also the fact that this offense, like it or not, does not really care all that much who that number 2 perimeter receiver is. I think they like Devin Duvernay in the slot next year. I certainly would. He's going to get more playing time. And I think they love Marquise Brown as that deep threat. So getting a possession number 2 receiver that has good hands, that can be had in free agency. It can be had in the second round of this draft class with a lot of candidates. So I'm not really taking a receiver here. You missed out on Creed Humphrey that I think is, really it would have been a nice pick here for Baltimore. But with him going to Chicago earlier, you could take a different center here. But again, the value's not really there. So looking at center, receiver, defense is pretty set. You could go with an edge rusher, but they traditionally like to develop those guys. They have a certain archetype that is easier to find in the second, third round. There's a guy in Cam Sample, for example, in this class that I think would be an excellent mid-round pick for the Ravens. So I'm going to move down, accrue an extra pick, and the team that's going to move up is going to be the LA Chargers, using that third-round pick that they snagged from New England to package with their second-round pick to do exactly what they did last year when they came up for the linebacker out of Oklahoma. They're going to move up and grab Trey Smith to upgrade this offensive line even further, which is just ideal. So the Chargers get 2 starting offensive linemen in the first round, and the Ravens grab a mid-round pick where they're going to be able to get, probably with that second-round pick, you can get a receiver that you'd like to be that perimeter starter, and then you can still probably get, with your other second-round pick, one of the other 3 centers in this class. So I think it's a win-win for both teams. I love what I was able to pull off for these two squads in this draft. And then the New Orleans Saints are going to grab JOK, Jeremiah Owusu Karamoa. I will get that name straight by draft night. This is a tough spot for the Saints. The Saints are right there with the football team and the Bears and the Lions, like kind of in this weird state. So just go kind of best player available, someone that can start and give you some long-term upside. I don't really know what the Saints' needs are going to be, what their future outlook looks like for the next year or three. With the cap troubles and Drew Brees retiring, they're in a really tough spot, but this is good value. He can start next to Demario Davis, who is getting up there in age, so we're going to go with JOK. Quan Alexander will not be back here for this team, so he's going to plug right into that role. And their defense took a step up with Quan Alexander, so definitely a nice pick for the Saints. Then the Green Bay Packers. Second mock in a row. I'm actually not going receiver in the first round with the Packers, and that's because there is a corner here that I love for this defense, which is a lot of zone match coverage. We're assuming they're going to pick up the Rams Fangio defense of sorts, with Staley and Joe Barry and all that stuff. But anyway, we're going to grab Asante Samuel, who is going to be the perfect pairing to Jair Alexander, the quickness and the zone instincts. I think Asante Samuel, yes, he's going to be great in man coverage, but I think his route recognition, his ability to kind of read the quarterback's eyes and jump into passing lanes in like cover 3, cover 4, which this team's going to be running all day next year, it's underrated. So I love Asante Samuel in this scheme, and I would be looking to package picks to move up for a receiver in the second round, whether it's Tylan Wallace or Seth Williams or some of these other guys. There's a lot of excellent playmakers left at receiver, but you're not finding Asante Samuel Jr. in the second round, in my opinion. So we're going to grab the corner now, and I'm going to be looking to trade up for receiver, packaging a second and third round pick to get up for one of these guys. Because if you get a starting corner and a starting receiver, this team's looking real nice for next year. So then we got the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to grab Christian Barmore this time around. So watching some more AJ Epinesa, I think they have something there. I'm just not crazy about Azeez Ojulari in this 4-3 defense. He could work out, but I like him more in a true 3-4. Maybe you go with the other Miami guy, but Christian Barmore, to me, is actually the bigger need for Buffalo. I actually think you can get that day one impact that they need from a pass rushing perspective with Barmore. Ed Oliver really struggled down the stretch. The defensive interior of Buffalo is not looking all that good. So I actually think this is the pick for Buffalo to be a day one starter, increase the pass rush, and help the run defense. All things that this team needs an upgrade in for next year. And then the Kansas City Chiefs, I think they're also thinking offensive line here. Again, they're not picking until the end of the second round. And I think they're like, we got to get some offensive line help. And I know the tackles are still there, but do they want to lean on Schwartz, who couldn't stay healthy last year, who's like 34 years old, and Eric Fisher, who's not that good, coming off an Achilles injury? I mean, they just saw if those guys can't be out there and can't be healthy, they're in trouble. So let's grab Liam Eichenberg, who has really nice technique. He's a guy that if those tackles stay healthy, he can start at guard. He can absolutely start at guard, and he's polished enough that I'm not worried about them doing what a lot of teams do, which when they slide a guy inside, they're too stubborn to kick him back outside when they need him to play tackle. I think the Chiefs are smart enough to be like, we'll kick him back outside to tackle when we lose one of these veterans. So Liam Eichenberg gives them some of that flexibility. He's the type that they really like, with a more athletic tackle who can kind of run with some of these moving pockets a little more. So he's a great pick for Kansas City. Then Tampa Bay, changing my mind a little bit. I had said that they don't have any needs, and when you're a team like that, just grab a running back. I've been mocking them Travis Etienne. Well, looking at the players that they want to bring back, I do think they're going to have a cap casualty in their left tackle in Donovan Smith. And with the depth of this tackle class, I think that it actually makes a ton of sense to target a starter at left tackle. They also just saw what a young tackle in Tristan Wirfs can be for them. So interesting to kind of decide who that guy is going to be for this team. They've also had a lot of success in small school offensive line prospects. And we're going to grab Dylan Radunes, who might not be the highest upside pick left on the board at tackle, but he might be the highest floor pick. His technique was extremely impressive in the Super Bowl, in the Senior Bowl. Might be in the Super Bowl again next year, but his technique was awesome, and he really answered some of those anchor questions, his power blocking ability. So Dylan Radunes looking really sharp. It's maybe a little early, but this team doesn't pick until the end of the second round, so you can reach for a need if you're Tampa Bay, who's kind of all in on next year. And I do think that Donovan Smith's going to be that cap casualty at left tackle. And I think Dylan Radunes can be as good as Donovan Smith was last year. There is the mock draft. I really liked this one. It's getting to that point in the mock draft where some of these team fits, these scheme fits are really starting to make sense. And some of these trades are really fun to see play out. So I get excited about this thing, man. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please do hit that like button if you did. If you enjoy my draft content, you want to see some more, check out my Patreon where you can support the channel in the process. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of these picks for your teams. And peace, guys. We'll see you later. Cheers.